Dave Hodges.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, welcome to the Edge Television broadcast, Dave.
Glad to be here.
Man, I tell you what, it is very timely you coming on the program, especially what's happening over there on Alex Jones' channel in the last day or so. We would definitely want to talk about that. But Dave, good to have you back. There's a lot of things going on politically. Man, you always are on the point of the spear when it comes to political matters. And tonight we want to talk about various things going on, including whether or not the Trump administration was wiretapped or where there was just some sort of intelligence gathering. We want to talk about this Pizzagate euphemism and various other things. But Dave, before we do, there's always new people watching the program. If you'd say something about your show and what you do, and we'll go take it from there.
Well, I'm Dave Hodges, and I'm just a regular old guy. And I got, let me put this very bluntly, I got screwed by the New World Order. John McCain and his banker friends tried to steal my property and that of my neighbors about 14 years ago, and I had to fight to keep it. And that launched me into what I do now with my radio show that's on Sunday nights, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern. Can listen to it up on my website at thecommonsenseshow.com. And we have a listen live button. I also have a YouTube channel, but there's an interesting development there. I'm going the way of Paul Joseph Watson and Alex Jones. Every ad that YouTube had in my videos has now been taken out. So they've deprived me of all revenue. Now I'm going to keep broadcasting, and I'm going to change my format a little bit. But with, it's a tough situation we're in right now, and a lot of us are involved in this. A lot of us are getting hit. My friend Lisa Haven, who does just a great job. She's getting demonetized a lot by YouTube. So this is a thing that's going on. But anyway, that's a little bit about me. We're at the tip of the spear, so to speak, and the spear, is being turned back on us. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where we're at.
I would say, knowing you and Lisa and Sheila and anyone else that is at the tip of the spear, I'm not sensing you guys are going to back down.
No, but we've got to gather. I know some of the people I've talked to today are actually speaking with a lawyer. They already have today. I haven't heard the results of that conversation. And I think YouTube has a legal problem. And they are private and they can keep off their site what they want, but they're also an unregulated monopoly. And when they choose one side over another, and particularly when we come from the Christian world point of view, there's a First Amendment issue. And there's also an unregulated monopoly abuse issue. I mean, there's antitrust laws, I think, being broken. And but there's lawyers out there that know more than I do on this. So we're going to see what's what on this. But the other side wants the public not to hear what you and I are going to talk about tonight. I'll give you an example. I was interviewing a really popular talk show host out of Alabama, Joshua Coy, WYDE-FM, biggest station in Alabama, and got, I think, the best show on that station. And we were talking about FEMA camp in Alaska that can hold 2 million people and the plans to have behavior modification experiments done on the inmates to create a hive mentality. Well, that interview was done Skype to Skype. I was on vacation, not using my regular equipment. And that interview was cut off. But here's where it got really weird. Josh and I tried to contact each other for 2 days following the cutoff of that interview. Now, I aired the interview, the partial interview. And as a result, we weren't able to talk for 2 days. No landlines, no cell phones, no text messages, no emails. Every form of communication was blocked between us. And there were noises that were imposed on the interview. And I was in a completely quiet hotel room, and yet you could hear paging like in a bus terminal, a woman screaming. It was absolutely insane. And then I interviewed Steve Quayle 2 days later and had the same kind of noises. And then Josh Coy and I hooked up again, and we had the noises again. Only this time they decided to hold the interview in a diner, and they were clanging dishes. And keep in mind, my wife and son were at the beach. I was alone. So this is what the New World Order is doing to silence us. Mm-hmm. They're actively interfering in our broadcasts. They are demonetizing us on things like YouTube. Mm-hmm. Facebook is turned into an absolute Nazi tyrant. So it's, you look at this, and this is just going crazy right now. We're in an all-out war. And I know I don't sound terribly confident, and I usually like to approach my problems in the air of confidence. but we're in the we just got hit stage, and I'm picking myself up off the ground. And, you know me, I'm not going to sit back, and I'm a fighter. I've taken on McCain and kicked his butt. So we're going to fight back. I just don't know exactly what we're going to do yet. I just hung up the phone with Doug Hagman when you called me, and I think he knows he's probably next. Steve Quayle will get him too. And I'm making the rounds, and we're going to have some kind of coordinated response. So we'll just have to see.
And the names that you mentioned, would they consider you guys what's known as the alt-right?
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, if you're not for Satanism and pedophilia and the destruction of the United States Constitution, if you're pro-Second Amendment, if you're pro-life, if you're pro-Jesus Christ, you are a terrorist in their eyes, and you are the, quote, extremist that they need to eliminate from the social media.
And it seems to me, I believe when we had Sheila Zielinski on last week, she was saying that her website had some issues as well.
Well, we all are. I have articles that disappear, and
wow,
they're just playing games. I mean, this is part and parcel what we're up against, and I'm disappointed in Donald Trump because he's not draining the swamp fast enough. He's draining it one drop at a time.
Well,
and there needs to be a flood. He needs. Let me give you one thing I've already suggested.
okay.
You know, and I know, and anyone who knows this business knows the CIA, the rogue part of the CIA, is leaking classified information to try to frame Trump. And many times they're mischaracterizing what they're leaking. But it's classified information. They're breaking federal law. Mm-hmm. Trump needs to go down there with the military and sequester at Langley and go department by department. Show me your computer. Show me what you've done. When they refuse, they're fired. Mm-hmm. And you serve them up subpoenas from the attorney general. And you go through and you start firing person after person, department after department, until you clean out these thugs that don't think they have to obey our laws. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing he needs to do. And then he needs to do the same thing with the Secretary of State. I mean, there is a case right now that I've been dealing with, and I've publicized it greatly up until about 3 weeks ago. And we've been in a quiet period, but with Monica Wesolowski, State Department employee, pro-Trump, put Trump's picture up in her cubicle after the election. Now, he's now the commander-in-chief, mm-hmm. and she has been charged with violating the Hatch Act. I mean, she technically could go to prison for this, and although the Obama pictures on her colleagues' desks are all there. Mm-hmm. And there are all kinds of funny business going in that we probably don't have time to touch on today inside the State Department that Monica's been seeing. She has been followed to and from work. The Fairfax police have been involved. She has photos. I have published these photos of this car that has surveilled her constantly. She was poisoned at a diner. I could go on and on. This is craziness what's happening right now inside our government. This woman feels her life is in danger, and I agree, and so does the Fairfax Police Department. They even advised her not to go home. And this is from the terrorists who work inside the State Department at her level in her office. I heard another story about somebody who put a Trump picture. It might have been in a VA, and there was some kind of uproar there. So, yeah, you're right. But what we're dealing with there is what's known as the deep state. They are entrenched, and they were weaponized on Obama's way out. He weaponized them as he did every other parts of his administration. But for Donald Trump to go in there, that's kind of a new line of thinking for me, what you just suggested about the military, because that is under his command. But these bureaucrats that's in place, you're talking about investigations and, gathering of informations and committee hearings and things that lead to nowhere and take forever. That's not going to change anything, I don't think. No, that's a waste of time. He needs to take direct executive action. No Congress. Congress is totally criminalized and corrupt. I'll give you one example of what I'm talking about. One of the reasons I supported Donald Trump was because he promised to change the free trade agreements or to eliminate them. They take tens of millions of jobs away from our citizens. And Trump said, we're changing that. He said, these companies that want to go overseas have the right to do it. But if they bring their products back into the country, they're going to pay an import tax. We're going to put a tariff on them. And I thought that was a tremendous idea to protect America and put America first. Well, what's happened in Congress is they'll never go along with this, just like they didn't go along with health care reform that Trump wanted, just like they're not going to go along with tax cuts that he wants. These Republicans are as bad as the Democrats because they're all on the take from the corporations that sponsor the free trade agreements. They pay them exorbitant campaign donations. They don't spend it all, and they hang on to it in their little slush funds, and eventually it turns over to them. It's bribery. And Paul the Rat Ryan and his colleagues like John McCain, these people are complicit in being bribed and I think committing treason against the people of the United States, and they're going to block Trump's agenda. And I predicted this before he took over. In fact, I said, if he wins the election, we'll have a quagmire in the House. Now, what could change, and it's not going to happen because our country is still hopelessly asleep. Enough of us woke up to vote for Donald Trump, but not enough of us are going to wake up to clean house on Congress. In 2018, every congressman should have a political bullseye on his or her back, and they should be gone from office, every one of them. That way, the new people coming in would then realize the American people expect some cooperation here, and they expect the reforms that Trump was elected on. But I'm not optimistic the American people will do it. You people who are listening to me, will you lean over your fence and tell your neighbor that they better get to work if they want their kids to have a future? Have you done that? If you haven't done it, that's why I'm not optimistic.
And now, just the most recent of events, of course, was, I would call it a healthcare debacle. I mean, I could see that from a mile away. That wasn't going to go anywhere. And I'm wondering, and as far as the conservatives or ultra conservatives that were blocking it, didn't like what was in it, they weren't getting the message that Trump was elected to run that through. They didn't get, as far as I can tell, they didn't get the mandate to not do what Trump wanted to do. But I think maybe Trump might have been a little bit of a pragmatist there in the way that he presented that. Of course, Ann Coulter said he should have started with taxes, and now I hear Donald Trump saying I should have started with taxes. Maybe he's listening to her. But that thing wasn't going anywhere, Dave. And so has that put a major damper on anything else he wants to do?
I don't know why he let that go forward. It had gun control in it. I came out and I created a podcast night before last, and I still haven't released it on the website yet. Sitting about here thinking about what revisions I want to make, but I wouldn't support anything that would have gun control in it beyond just our regular laws. And gun control has no business in a healthcare bill. Gun control's in there still because of Paul Ryan, not because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not anti-gun, and I'm not saying that. But Donald Trump should have been speaking out saying, I will not support this bill as long as it has anti-gun legislation in it, and he did not do that. And for that, I'm very disappointed in his action or lack of action. I'm glad the health bill was voted down. Because we need to have protection for the citizens against the tyrants that are running this country more than we need health care. Now, and people are going, whoa, wait a minute, Dave. Well, yeah, you know what? You can't defend yourself with a scalpel. But you can
give you
with an AK-40. You can with an AK-47. You know, listen, to the people out here who think I sound like I'm really on edge, I am, and I apologize, and this is kind of state of the moment thing. But I will tell you this. There were 19 genocides in the 20th century, as covered by the University of Hawaii Democide Project, that they studied this. All 19 genocides were preceded by gun confiscation. And the people that are running this country, the tyrants, the deep state, they know that we'll rise up immediately if they come for our guns. So they're trying to do it incrementally. A little bit here, a little bit there, and it's like the frog in the boiling pot. Pretty soon the frog doesn't know what hit it. And that's what they're hoping to do with gun control, and this was one example. And I'm reading from the title right here on this YouTube that I produced, and I said, you know, healthcare defeated, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, and it was a bill that needed to die. And I mean that sincerely. And yes, I want Obamacare gone, but I want the ability to defend myself more than I want to get rid of Obamacare.
Well, you know, you're talking about genocide. One would ask the question from a historical standpoint, how that the rational Germans in World War II were able to agree with the Nazi regime that the Jews were less than human and therefore needed to be exterminated. First, their stuff needed to be taken, and then they need to be regulated out of business, and then they need to be taken away to camps and exterminated. The fact of the matter is, Dave, that the left, the vast majority, and that slipped out with the Hillary's undesirable. That would be an exact term used by the Nazis to persuade people that people on the right, conservatives in general, are less than human. They're stopping human progress, and they would have no problem putting people in the FEMA camps and worse.
Agreed. You asked kind of a rhetorical question in the beginning, and I'm going to turn it into a real question for you. Why would the German people go along with it? And I have relatives from my family that were around at that time in Germany that made their way over here. And what they tell me is consistent with the opinion I've formed from other historical sources, and it's this. When you're living in a chaotic society and assassinations are taking place and people are starving to death on the street, and it takes a wheelbarrow full of money to purchase a half a loaf of bread, and shopkeepers are closing down their shops 5 times a day to change the prices because of hyperinflation, when you live in a society like that, it's basically might makes right. There is no rule of law. There is no sense of morality. And as a consequence of this, what we're looking at is a situation where people are desperate. They're going to do anything. And then groupthink takes over. Hitler comes in and uses borrowed money and builds an economy based on military spending, and people all of a sudden have jobs to go to. They have food on the table. And now you get that same voice in your ear saying, it's the Jews, it's the Jewish bankers. Do you really want to go back to what you had previously? Mm-hmm. Or are you going to believe the guy that put food on your table? And it's a real groupthink mentality. And then as they start pulling the Jews out, which they did mostly at about 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning, so they weren't seen. Mm-hmm. But there were most of the Germans knew what was going on. But it was a case of cognitive dissonance. They didn't want to know. Mm-hmm. So they just pretended not to know, even though they knew. Right. And I will tell you, if you're familiar with the Milgram experiment that was done here by Stanley Milgram in the early 1960s, and he ran an experiment to see how far people would go without much pressure from an authority figure. Would they actually put someone to death? The answer is yeah, 2 out of 3 of us would. Mm-hmm. And research results since that time have validated the Milgram results. So a Holocaust can happen here as easily as it happened in Nazi Germany. Right. The situation just needs to become a little bit more dire than it is now, and believe me, the globalists are working on that.
Right, and you know the rioting that's going on, the breakdown at the town halls, the people that are protesting there, and being paid for it and being bussed in it as well. There is somebody trying to generate some unrest in the country, and of course it's all on starting the college campuses, but it's in the streets of America. And so I see that's going to be ramped up to get to this point, this breaking point that you're talking about. But the sort of the attack though right now does seem to be from a virtual standpoint. It's a virtual attack. It's subversion. It's spying on people through the cell phones and televisions. It is hacking websites. It's YouTube and Facebook, deciding who and what content they're going to allow up on there. Those seem like the early stages of a larger plan.
Yeah, you're kind of pulling in, I think, different facets of the same plan, different phases. And I agree with you. Right now, and there has been for some time, and I've been told this by insiders, and my information on this is solid, and it's confirmed through independent multiple sources. And what they tell me is the NSA has a data gathering instrument they use, and it has 16 different dimensions that it weighs people that they evaluate. And the weighing is done automatically through artificial intelligence. No humans involved. And they listen to every cell phone call, every landline, every keystroke is monitored, every form of communication. Your spoken word next to an open device is also recorded. You have voice prints on file, so it's automatically filed by your voice print. It's the same as your fingerprint. And you get a 16-dimension score, and you get an aggregate score on top of that. And I don't know where they're going to draw the line, but what I was told was there'll be a line drawn, and there'll be phases in here. No threat, some threat, major threat, eliminate immediately. That's the kind of lines that they're going to draw with us, what Steve Quayle used to call, red list, blue list kind of stuff. And this is what the NSA is doing, and this is why they're spying on you through your Vizio TV, and Vizio only had to pay a $2 million fine. That's like a parking ticket to them. And basically any electronic device you have can be used as a listening instrument, and that's all for the purposes of deciding if you're going to be allowed to live in the New World Order. Then there is the part that they're doing to people like myself and Alex Jones, where they're trying to take out what they view as the command and control of the Patriot movement. There is no question, and I'm not tooting my horn, this is just a statement of fact, Donald Trump would not have been elected had it not been for the independent media's efforts. We pulled in tens of millions of people who had never heard of us before and would never have known about these issues. And all of a sudden words like New World Order and globalism and free trade are now in the American vernacular that weren't there before. And this is what YouTube and Facebook and Google and Twitter are trying to stop. They're trying to put the genie back in the bottle. Now, they won't. They're going, and I'll tell you this too. I actually knew this was coming. I didn't know it would come this swiftly. I'm actually making plans to move my radio broadcast to shortwave. And I'm going to be working on that with Bob Griswold from Ready Made Resources this summer. And I anticipated the backlash. I just didn't think it would come this quickly. And like I said, the next time we talk, I'm sure that we'll be in the midst of a formulated response to all this. I just don't know what it's going to be right now. So they want to take out command and control. That's Alex Jones, myself, eventually Doug and Steve, and the people I've already mentioned will be included in this. But they're also data gathering on average people. And just virtue of the fact, people, that you are listening to this broadcast, this is a bad thing for you. It's going down in the negative column. Because you're listening to subversive talk. And do you know I was actually accused by the Washington Post of being a Russian agent? I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, I did not know that, Dave.
Oh, yeah, they mentioned it. They referenced an off-site website, and they linked to it in the article about extremist media with Russian connections serving Putin.
That's unbelievable. Well, unbelievable in the sense that it is believable, and you wouldn't think that in America we'd be even having this discussion that we are, but it has slipped that so far down there. I was listening to some conversation. Well, I guess it was actually a video by Sheila Zelinsky called "Deafening Silence." If you haven't heard that yet, go catch that, because she basically says that the Christians. She lays it right at the foot of the Christians that they have allowed so much to happen in this country. And remember, and I said this on the broadcast before, that Donald Trump once said, "Why is it that pastors and Christians in general, the vast numbers and organizations they have no voice whatsoever?" It was because they never wanted a voice. They were taught and believed that it is not their place to have a voice. And while they're over there deafening silence, the creeps have been slowly and meticulously running their plan to take over.
Well, they're more than taking over. They're eliminating the competition, at least for the time being.
Were you aware? Let me ask you one more other thing, Dave. I want to get this before I get too further. A Russian bank recently said that somebody was hacking into their server, causing it to send a request to Trump's server, therefore making it look like, and it caused the Trump server to respond to these requests, just pure automation and back-end metadata stuff, I would suppose, and DNS stuff going back and forth. But they said that it looks like somebody had planted this software bug in there to make it look like Donald Trump was talking to the Russians. Did you catch that?
I did. And it's true the technology exists. I can't speak to the validity of the event. I don't know. But I do know the technology exists, and when you are falsely trying to frame a president for treason after his former opponent, Hillary Clinton, actually sold uranium to the Russians, you can believe almost anything is possible in this environment we live in. I mean, most people, they leave their house in the morning, they get into traffic, they cooperate with people that are going to be reasonable, they're going to follow most of the traffic laws. They go to work, there's protocols to follow at work, there's a boss, a chain of command, a procedure to follow. And so most people are really kind of immune to how the government is really working right now. Your daily environment does not reflect what's going on inside our government. There is a war going on inside our government, and there is no rule of law. Well, let me back up. Donald Trump is trying to bring the rule of law back to our government, but the deep state is breaking every rule in the book. Mm-hmm. There are no rules. Right. People say, well, that's unconstitutional. If I hear that one more time, I'm going to pull all my hair out, because there is no constitution right now. Mm-hmm. There is none. I mean, look at Donald Trump. He has the statutory authority to control immigration. He can decide who can come in, how long they can stay. Mm-hmm. That's under the purview of the president. Right. Yet you're finding judges now violating the Constitution and taking that right away from him.
Yeah. Now, for those that just heard what Dave said, you may not know this, but I know, Dave, I know you know, but was it 2 hours after Trump's second executive order that that judge released a 43-page document saying why he was not going to allow it? That document was clearly rewritten, and then you might be able to corroborate this. Didn't Obama go out there and meet this judge?
Yes.
This is unbelievable.
That's what I was told too.
That's like Loretta Stench meeting Bill Clinton by accident on the tarmac. Yeah. These people are out. You're right. Out of control is a good word. By the way, hey, we got a couple questions. Let's get our audience involved with our conversation tonight, Dave. Old guy out of the live chat says, Dave, why is John McCain not in prison for treason?
Because there are no rules. I mean, it's that simple. Why isn't Hillary Clinton? Listen, my dad was in naval intelligence. If he had taken a classified email off a government server, and he didn't have a server at this time of his own, but if he had done that, it's 5 years for each offense. Hillary Clinton did it how many times? 33,000? Yeah. Why isn't she being prosecuted? And here's my frustration with Donald Trump. The evidence against Hillary Clinton in this instance is omnipresent. It doesn't need any more proving. The FBI proved it, although they failed to act on what they found. But the proof is already there. All Sessions has to do is file on Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. And Trump needs a victory right now.
Mm-hmm. The Republicans, at least those that still believe in America, Republicans, need to understand they've always fought this battle with the left as if they were reasoned people and there was just a disagreement of policy. They don't understand that the fact is these people aren't reasoned in policy. They are incrementally moving their agenda forward under the guise of cooperating in certain circumstances, in agreement or whatnot, maybe even giving something to the right. But their agenda is not anywhere near cooperation or for the betterment of America. They thought they had the election completely wired up, so they made all these laws in Congress, about how to vote and pass bills because they knew they would be in power forever. Unfortunately, there's still a remnant. There was a large enough remnant in the United States to elect Donald Trump. But Dave, Donald Trump's only one guy. If something were to happen that Snoop Dogg wishes for and played out on a video and wasn't arrested for, is there anyone else even remotely with the capability of the Donald Trump out there?
Well, you're going to take me into another controversial area, and the answer is no. And the answer is no is because Trump, I got to say this honestly, there's two answers to this question. When he chose Pence as vice president, he locked up the election from the Electoral College point of view. Pence's influence into Ohio and into Pennsylvania and Michigan were of great value to the president. But Pence is a globalist. He's been for free trade agreements. He is not against Obamacare. Now, he now is towing the company line, but I'm talking about past deeds. I don't trust Pence. I think he's LBJ in waiting. And that's my feeling with this. Now, let me tell you, the rhetoric, and I really believe the only reason that Donald Trump has not been assassinated, and this cuts to the heart of your question, is because the American people are knowledgeable enough as a group, even the ones who still are dumb, deaf, and blind to the New World Order, they're not going to believe another lone assassin with a diary saying what he was going to do, cover up. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think they haven't done it. So they're going about it using other more nefarious means. And this is where yours truly enters into this picture because We're here to call BS on the BS that they're doing to Trump, so they have to remove our voices before they do what they do.
I'll give you a little hope here. I personally have met Mike Pence several times, and I never ever got the idea that he was a globalist. I think what it is that he has heard information and believes policy that seems to direct to this grand belief of globalized economy and selling Indiana farm goods to the rest of the world. Indiana's a big corn producer and exports a lot of corn and soybeans. And so from that standpoint, then he would say, yes, the globalization is good. I think that now that he's been with Trump, I think that his eyes are open, and I think he's holding back. And as you say, he's told the company line, but he must know and be in those briefings. There must be some good people in there, the ones that particularly told Donald Trump they had evidence, even directly contradicting James Comey, that he was being wiretapped by the Obama administration. I think that Mike Pence has that information, and he must know that deep state that he doesn't want to believe exists, and no reasonable person wants to believe that it exists. I think he's finding out that very fact.
I've known about, I didn't call it this, but I've known about the deep state for 20 years before I ever got involved in this work. Before I was very knowledgeable about the New World Order, I knew about it. I know that the cabinet positions are turned over at the whim of the president. But when you get into the GS-10s and the GS-12s, and they work 25, 30, 40 years as a career, they survive multiple presidencies. And they carry with them the philosophies of the time that brought them in. And let's take a look at what we've had. We've had total lawlessness and treason from the Obama administration for 8 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've had anti-white rhetoric. We've had minority empowerment, and not that minorities shouldn't be empowered, but at the expense of whites and blaming whites for their situation rather than the Democrats doing anything about it. We've had 8 more years of George Bush ripping apart the Constitution, tearing up the First Amendment, tearing up the Fifth Amendment, tearing up the Fourth Amendment, and then overlaying all that with we have the NDAA where you can be snatched off the street for no reason. That's 16 years now of total tyranny. And before that, who did you have? A Clinton. So now you're into 20. And who did you have before him? H.W., who may be the worst of all of them. So you've had 24 years of people inhabiting the federal government. And this is what Trump is facing. Yeah. This is why Monica Wesolowski can't put a photo up of the commander-in-chief in her office cubicle that really almost no one would even see.
Well, I just remembered a little part of that. I think it was in the VA hospital as to why they didn't put up Trump's picture. They said because Trump's going to be impeached. And so they didn't want to spend the money to put up a Trump picture. That was the rest of that story. Let's get to this question here from James Haas for you, Dave Hodges of the Common Sense Show. It says Congress voted 52 times to repeal Obamacare during the Obama administration, and Obama vetoed the repeal. Trump comes in office, and magically, there's no repeal to vote, but just a little bit of tinkering around the edges, which didn't work. What happened?
Well, I think what happened is, one, they want to not give Trump any luster in his first 100 days. And this is, I think, Trump let Ryan's gun control stay in their bill, because I think he was willing to make a bill, and I'm guessing here. But it's very interesting, you're right, that how can the previous happen and Trump can't get anything through? Well, it's because it's quagmire time against Trump. Mm-hmm. Trump could right now, he could try to get a bill passed saying the sun is coming up in the east tomorrow, and the Democrats and a good number of Republicans would vote against that. That's how bad it is in Congress right now. This is why the American people regard, and I'll tell you, Trump is going to get impeached. You can take that to the bank. If he doesn't move and have this deep state well on its way out the door by June 1st, they're going to so discredit Trump that the Democrats will take over the House in 2018, and he'll be gone. He'll be gone in short order. And you take that one to the bank, too. And I interviewed Robert David Steele, ex-CIA, and Robert said that, he said April 1st. I think Trump has a little more time, but not much more. But that's an excellent question from your listener. But you're not going to see anything passed that's meaningful. I mean, look at what a marvelous job Trump has done with jobs. He has saved an estimated 200,000 jobs without Congress lifting a finger, because Trump knows his projects, his programs aren't going anywhere in Congress. So he's sitting down and making deals with the heads of these large corporations. I think that's marvelous on his point to do that. What great leadership he is showing. And we, the American people, should be ashamed of ourselves for not stepping up and putting tremendous heat on Congress, who's blocking Trump.
What Trump should have done regarding that, I call it Obamacare 2.0. Man, what else can you say? I had no use for that bill that they were putting up there. But what he should just say, hey, since y'all don't want to pass a bill, then why don't we at least make one bill or use an executive order to force every government employee to be covered under Obamacare?
I like that.
All right, take that one.
Give Congress the same health care that we get stuck with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've heard a lot of horror stories myself. All right, here's another question for you, Dave, of the Common Sense Show. If there's no rule of law, then why do we still have FBI, CIA, NSA?
I'm trying to answer the question without sarcasm, because it is a good, sincere question. Okay. James Comey is in his position, and he has run interference for Clinton for 25 years. Mm-hmm. He was on the board of directors at HSBC when, this is from John Cruz, mm-hmm. former senior VP at HSBC Bank, said on my show multiple times, James Comey allowed, as on the board of directors, money to be laundered from drug money laundering, child sex trafficking money laundering, and gun running laundering money some of this to go into the Clinton Foundation. It was on his watch. And the facts are irrefutable. Where's James Comey? Where's James Comey with the 33,000 emails I previously mentioned? Mm-hmm. The CIA leaking classified information to discredit a president they don't want to serve. Mm-hmm. And see, the director of the CIA, appointed by Trump, can't even get control of his own agency. Mm-hmm. This is how embedded this is.
Listen, this guy.
Just say,
go ahead.
I just want to say this real quick. If people out there have not followed the work of Trevor Loudon, you need to start. This man's not getting enough credit. And I've never spoken to the man. I've never interviewed him. I hope to change that. But Trevor Loudon wrote a book called Enemies Within. He followed it up with a documentary that you can get on Amazon Prime. And my son gave me Amazon Prime, said Dad needs to relax to have more fun. And so I got that for my birthday last year. And there was a video you could rent, a nominal fee, $3, $5. And it was made by Trevor. And he went through and painstakingly detailed, to my satisfaction with proper documentation, the claim that Allen West and to some degree former Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney made when they have both intimated 80 congressmen and senators are members of front groups for the Communist Party and for the Muslim Brotherhood. This is who they serve. And Franken is the worst of them all, in my opinion. I think he's the ringleader. Ellison's right up there, too. Thank God he didn't get control of the Democratic Party, although they traded a Muslim for a communist. Right. Pelosi is part of this. Barbara Boxer's part of this. John McCain's part of this. Mm-hmm. We actually have people in this video from the Communist Party admitting that they went door to door for Ellison when he ran for re-election. This is I think a long-winded answer to the question that a couple of your listeners have asked me about rule of law. There is no rule of law when a large portion of your legislative body supports philosophies and political systems that want to bring us down.
Do you think that Angela Merkel was blackmailed by the Obama administration when they were tapping her phone? Do you think that they got something on her is why she allowed her country to be destroyed by illegal by immigration from the Middle East?
I think there's no question, because I think it's going to cost her political career. Mm-hmm. I think there's no question, and I think jail time could have been attached. I mean, what else could make someone do that to their own country? See, now, Obama wasn't an American. That's why he would do it to his own country. Right. Merkel's a German.
Yeah.
She came up through the ranks.
There's
So,
no
good
question.
point.
There's no question that Obama is not an American, and there's no question that he's not a Christian. So I don't even, I don't. They can talk conspiracy all they want, but it seems to me every conspiracy that comes out eventually on the internet, I say the alt-right, eventually floats to the top and gets some daylight occasionally, and they're proven right. And so this Trump wiretapping is a perfect example where you had that Nunez guys on the committee saying they've got information that should not be in documents showing that somebody on the inside was deliberately unmasking people as part of some larger plan. And, that directly contradicts James Comey, and I don't even know why that guy is still in office. Like you said, he had enough evidence. He delineated a list of crimes and then said, we don't have any evidence for the crimes that we found. It's ridiculous. All right, here's another question for you from Dreamwalker out of the live chat. It says, who do you believe is ultimately at the top of the world disorder?
Interesting choice of words. I don't know. There are names unknown behind the faces that we know. Rockefeller, of course, till his demise, and Rothschild, the Lee family of China, the Oppenheimers. Those are generally thought to be the four centers of power, financially speaking. But this goes beyond their pay grade. I agree with Steve Quayle. There is a huge mystery at the South Pole. Why is it that all the VIPs are getting summoned over the last few months to Antarctica? And Steve has had a lot to say about this, both on my interviews and other interviews he's done and on his Skywatch TV show. I think command and control for the New World Order is located there. And it's really too much for me to go into at this time to really totally validate this, but Steve Quayle is an excellent source of this. I would also say that, is there a fallen angel component to this? And what I'm saying is, I am seeing signs that I think we're headed towards a fake alien invasion. I think the globalists are growing impatient with getting a new world order going, and we know about Project Bluebeam. It's my dad knew about this in the 80s. That's how old it is. And it's gone through modifications with updated technology from DARPA. But and people saying, well, Dave, what are you talking about with Project Bluebeam? It's to create these, for lack of a better term, holographic images, computerized images. They can make people see Christ on the horizon, make you see a fleet of UFOs. And I think what we're looking at here, and I'm saying this with a question mark, and I've had this discussion with many of my fellow Christians, are we looking at the Great Deception? I'll get right to the bottom line. And it's not ETs and UFOs from other planets coming here to conquer us, but it's more of the final straw. Here's how we unify the planet by scaring the crap out of everybody, making you think you're being invaded by UFOs and ETs, and it's really Project Bluebeam. And before you laugh, remember, please, Project Bluebeam exists. It was created by the CIA in the 1960s, and they developed it in the 1980s. Do you know about that? Are you familiar with Project Bluebeam?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've had that scenario, that case made many times on this program by various guests. And
so who's behind it all? Behind it all? If you go with that worldview, and like I said, I'm walking down this path gingerly, but evidence is opening up. What I see on TV shows for predictive programming, I'm seeing evidence of this. Mm-hmm. Like we're being conditioned for a disclosure. Mm-hmm. It's Satan is at the hand of all. You want to know, really, this is ultimately the fight between good and evil. In fact, I'll quote my good friend Vance Davis, formerly of the NSA. Vance said in his indoctrination training, they were taught that there's been a war going out in the cosmos for eons between good and evil. One of the prizes of the war is the human soul. Hence, we have transhumanism. Why? Because the globalists and the Satanists, which are really one and the same, have not figured out a way to crack the DNA code for our soul. So now they're trying to morph human beings through transhumanism. That's what will take place on this planet once we have a new world order in place. See, people often talk about, we got to stop the new world order. But most people you talk to don't really know what the cost is if we don't stop it. And if we don't stop it, 90% of us aren't going to be here. Just read their quotes, what they write. I take them at their word when they say we need to reduce the population by 90%. And then we know about their work with transhumanism. And actually, I've talked to some people like Patrick Wood, who's an expert on technocracy and transhumanism, Steve Quayle, both say the same thing. The death of David Rockefeller will scare the globalists more, and they'll want their version of immortality, and transhumanism is going to go through at breakneck speed. What we'll have is a small remnant of humans serving people who somehow have managed to morph themselves into what they think will be immortality.
Wow.
And this is the way they bypass the human soul and try to remove Jesus Christ as the ultimate ruler of this planet.
Okay.
I mean, this is the good and evil that Vance Davis in the NSA was taught. And he told me this story in 1992.
Well, listen,
this is before transhumanism was even a term, even heard of.
I want to pick that up right after the break. We have a 5-minute break right now. But before we go to break, Dave, tell people what they can find on the Common Sense Show website.
Well, hopefully some good common sense that'll help you understand what we're fighting against. Website's available at thecommonsenseshow.com. Still have a YouTube channel by the same name. And even though they've demonetized everything we're doing, we're still going to broadcast because it's more important still to get the word out. I'm not sure where I'm going to make the revenue up, but that's where people can find us. And my articles appear quite a few places around the net.
Okay. All right. We're going to turn you down, and then we'll be back in 5 minutes. All right, everybody, watching and or listening to the Edge television broadcast. My name is Daniel Ott. This show will begin to replay immediately after the broadcast is over, and we'll extract the high-definition video, put it in our YouTube channel, podcast it, and put it into our TuneIn Radio playlist. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Edge television broadcast. If you missed any of the exciting first hour with our guest tonight, Dave Hodges of the Common Sense Show, it will begin to replay in our main player directly after the show. You'll see it in our YouTube channel, and we'll also podcast it and put it in our TuneIn Radio playlist. Let's go back to our newsmaker line, bring Dave Hodges back on. Dave, welcome back.
Thanks. You might want to be careful who you put in there because some people think I have leprosy now.
Okay. Wow.
I don't want to infect you with a YouTube virus that so many of us are catching.
I ain't worried about it, man. Hey, you only live once, man. I'd rather die standing up, than on my knees and giving in. But hey, welcome back to the program, Dave. Wow, what I hate to even go to break on that, man. You were talking about Project Blue Beam and a very amazing amalgamation of what the scenario of this end time thing could look like, and you brought that all from that one question: who's ultimately behind it? And of course, you pointed to Satan in that matter. And you start talking about fallen angels and command and control and Antarctica and various things. But there is Michael Savage, who was viciously attacked, who's been a major Trump supporter. He said that God himself had put Donald Trump in office as almost a reprieve, because if he was not elected, it would have been full-scale, massive Middle Eastern invasion in his country. I would imagine probably 4 or 5 whole countries would have been imported here one way or the other. But so from that standpoint, when he's talking about divine intervention, do you see any divine intervention, say, for the people who do not give in, say the remnant of God? Are they going to get supernatural protection in this end time scenario?
I've chose to use a different descriptor than divine intervention. I call it divine opportunity. God has given us, in my estimation, one last opportunity to get it right. And putting Donald Trump in as God's prosecutor is a move in that direction. But I don't believe God is going to do this for us. Remember, we're a nation that has turned our back on him. We've killed 60 million babies. We've become the bad guy of the world. We initiate most of the wars. We've killed how many innocents around the world with drone strikes? And what have they done? They've been in the wrong place at the wrong time. God's not going to reward those behaviors. So he's not going to come back and reinstate the United States of America to its former glory. He's giving we, the people, his flock, his Christian followers, an opportunity to get it right. Unfortunately, we got the 501(c) pastors out there who are happy just sitting back, collecting their congregation's money and not standing up. Ask yourself a question when you've been in church, okay? Take yourself back mentally. When has your pastor talked about abortion? When has he organized a protest in front of a Planned Parenthood? When has he talked about the evils of the Obama administration? When has he talked about the Muslim invasion of our country and bringing values to our country that are threatening to overturn our Constitution and eliminate all other religion, including the Christian faith? Mm-hmm. When has your pastor talked about those things? If he hasn't or she hasn't, you're in the wrong church.
Well, the answer, of course, is simple. They don't, and they never have, and it certainly doesn't seem like they're going to begin that process either. And, the enemy's going to have to be right at their door, and I don't even think then, they're going to think, hey, well, God's causing us to be, carted off to a FEMA camp. Must be part of God's plan. Well, maybe it wasn't part of God's plan. Maybe because they never had enough opposition to the formation of those plans is why that is happening. But so you're saying that do you think in any way then that Donald Trump was approved by God, was instituted by God? Because the Bible is clear that he sets up kings and he brings them down. But then one would have to ask, why did we get Obama? He ain't no king. He was not even American for that matter. So, the last chance, so to speak, what does that look like from the majority of people that voted, or, well, I guess it's, however many people you look at it, that put Donald Trump in power? What are they supposed to do, Dave?
Well, I can tell you what most of them aren't doing. They're not doing their part. And I'm going to keep singing this repetitive ballad over and over. I said this before we ever elected Donald Trump. If by some work of God, some miracle, he gets in and he overcomes all this massive voter fraud we know about that's going to go on, it's up to us to carry the ball. We're the ones that have to put the heat on Congress. See, Congress is the key. And Congress is going to approve new Supreme Court justices. And so that brings the judges. I sound like that opening piece you had with George Bush. But he brings the Supreme Court into this, and we get control of the judiciary as a result of this. But the people need to start with Congress. This is where the first brick must be pulled out of this corrupt building. And right now, if people in masses were contacting their congressmen and saying, we want 1, 2, and 3, and if you do anything but 1, 2, and 3, it'll be 1, 2, and 3 with the next person who takes your place, you would see some turnaround. Because, see, these politicians are snakes. They've shown their lack of moral character. They're going to do what's best for them, and they'll turn around to these corporations and say, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to depend on being an incumbent to get reelected, because if I do what you want me to do, these people are going to unelect me. Mm-hmm. But, see, we're not getting the people to do their job.
Mm-hmm. All right, so listen, in the today, I think it's today, and maybe starting from yesterday, Alex Jones has pulled back on the Pizzagate story. And I know that back even in right around 2010, you and Sheila Zielinski were teamed up and were even talking about it even back then. You two were the first to even bring that up as something that actually did exist. But now, as far as I know, Alex Jones is pulling stories, not only saying he's sorry that he announced any of that Pizzagate information, but he's pulling stories about it. What happened?
So which part?
What did they get to Alex Jones, or was that a non-story?
I don't know. This whole story broke when I was on a 6-hour plane ride. And I feel like I'm still playing catch up because I really don't understand. Look, I never touched the individual who Alex Jones is having a problem with, and I'm not going to mention his name. Starts with an A, but I'm not going to mention his name. I've never brought his name up in any discussion I've ever had because I didn't have any proof, and I don't know what proof Alex had or didn't have. Pizzagate's a term I didn't like, and I've said that publicly, although I've used the term. Pizzagate for me is a euphemism for the elite are involved in child sex trafficking. And I have maintained that position for over 10 years since I first interviewed Nick Bryant, who wrote the Franklin scandal, and then Nancy Schaefer was murdered. Murder-suicide, or the murder, her husband shot himself in the back. Right. This is where it all started for me. I didn't need this scandal to break. In fact, let's go to Ray Grykar. Who's he? He used to be the county attorney of Center County in Pennsylvania, and he was the first man who actually said, I'm going to take a look at this Sandusky character. Well, a few weeks later, they never found him. They found his laptop all crashed up in a creek bed and his car abandoned. 6 years later, he was declared dead by the FBI. This shows you how far this crime went with the Second Mile Foundation. And then what was it yesterday? The ex-president of Penn State University is now convicted of child sex trafficking. And I said my investigation was showing this reached into the Pennsylvania governor's office. This reached into some members of Congress. But I didn't bring out the names because I couldn't double source it. And it's so, let's put it this way. If you want to get sued, if you're going to get sued, you better have double sources. And so I did say it points to very high positions. So I'm backing up from Alex Jones and getting involved in Pizzagate. I was involved in this, as you mentioned, with Sheila much, much earlier than Alex became involved in this with Pizzagate. Now, I don't know the mistake that Alex said he's made with this A character. I have no idea. He misquoted him. Maybe this guy is not guilty. It's somebody else. But you people who are listening to this broadcast can take this to the bank. I've looked at this enough to be confident in saying this, that some Congress people, not all, when they get elected, they go to parties, they get videotaped, and things happen.
Right.
And this is how they get controlled, and this is nothing new. I've been told this from people who've been in the CIA. As I said, Nick Bryant. This is not unique information. This is well known. So Alex was correct in saying there is rampant child sex trafficking going on with the elite, including people in high governmental positions. I believe that is true, absolutely true. He may have just made a mistake with this one gentleman and the institution that he identified, the Comet Pizza place. That's what my take on it is right now. But Alex is in full retreat.
Yeah. Yeah, he is.
If it were me, and listen, I don't know what Alex knows, and I don't know, what the legalities are right now. I'm saying, but if I had made a mistake on someone, I'd admit the mistake and say, but my story still stands on these other issues.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he should at least say that part. But then, what about this mysterious island that they say Bill Clinton and this pedophile owner of that island went to? But did I not also hear that Donald Trump went to that island?
That I can't tell you.
Okay.
I haven't gone down that avenue.
Okay.
And I don't mean just with Trump, because I'm not a hear no evil, see no evil. If people read my website, I am not giving Donald Trump a free pass on anything. I support him. He's my president. I helped get him elected, but I'm not going to stand here and blindly support things he does I don't believe in. For example, supporting a health care bill with gun control in it, and I'll be the first person to speak out on that. I don't know about the island. I didn't look into it. I didn't look into it with Clinton, although with Bill Clinton, his escapades are big enough that we don't need to know that. His reputation in child circles, as well as just how he treats females. I don't need to have verification of that. I don't know about the Trump situation.
Okay.
I really don't.
Okay.
And I'm not qualified to comment.
Okay. All right. So you say that there may be a developing response to various people whose websites have been, or particularly the YouTube channels who've been demonetized. You say there's a developing response for that, and you're in contact with various people to make a response?
I think that's even a little too strong of a statement for where we're at right now. We're kind of we just got punched in the mouth, and we're wiping the blood off. And we've mentioned a couple of things. Like I said, I do know that a discussion took place today between someone I know, who I'm not going to bring their name into it, and and a legal official. And they were looking for advice on antitrust legislation. And does the legislation cover what YouTube is doing? That's all I know that's taken place. Everything else that's taken place is we got a problem, we got to formulate an answer, we need to start putting our heads together. That's kind of where the majority of people are at that I'm talking to.
Okay. All right. We have this question from Phil, North Carolina. Dave, who put the gun control in the new Ryan healthcare bill?
They already said his name.
Well, I didn't hear it.
Paul the Rat Ryan.
Okay, the guy that looks like Eddie Munster. I mean, what is with that dude? He kind of reminds me of John McCain. He is like this old dried up cracker, and that he might as well just join the Democrats because he is one. But this Ryan guy, man, it seems like he's just trying to undermine Trump too. What's up with that?
I think you just nailed it right there with what you said. That's exactly where we're at.
It seems, Dave, that Trump stands alone, and there's nobody in there to help him, man.
Again, here's my mantra. It's the people who have to stand with him.
Mm-hmm. Now, there have been some pro-Trump rallies that have not been, aside from his rallies that Trump put on, which I know this one rally he had, I think it was in Florida. They said the people went down like a quarter of a mile trying to get in just to see him. But there's also spontaneous pro-Trump rallies going around the country as well.
You'll never hear about it in the media.
Of course not. No, it's a one-way gate right there. You talk about pedo gate. That's the media is just a one-way trap door to whatever he does is going to be wrong, and they want to impeach him for it. In order to impeach Donald Trump, wouldn't they have to get some Republicans to join in?
Yes. Well, let me back up. If it's 2018, it depends how many Democrats there are. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So maybe not. But listen, Donald Trump has to treat everyone as a Democrat. Mm-hmm. Any Republican that takes money from corporations that support open borders and free trade agreements are automatically a Democrat to Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. Dave, would you like to say anything to the NSA listening to the broadcast tonight?
Well, I feel sorry for your children. In fact, when you're done with your service to what used to be the USA, you will greatly regret your service because your children are going to have to live in the same hellhole as the rest of our children. And for that, you should be eternally disgraced for betraying your oath of office to your nation to uphold the Constitution. You violate it every day you go to work. You violate every freedom that we have. And I find you people in the NSA to be reprehensible. I don't care if you're 6 months from retirement. I don't care what excuse you come up with. Oh, they'll fire me. I can't lose this job. Really? What choice are you giving your kids and the other kids in this country?
Mm-hmm. I've always kind of said that we all know that the government has deep underground bases for themselves, fully stocked with jacuzzis and an infinite amount of food and various things to do down there. But when it gets crazy topside, when it hits the fan up top, eventually they're going to have to come out. And like you say, the world that they think they're going to recreate, I don't believe it's going to be recreated in the way, it's not going to come out like they planned. Because even those people are going to be taken by surprise because they think that it's kind of like we were talking about the Nazis in the first hour when in concentration camps there were Jews that signed up to be the sort of coordinator to rounding up other Jews. And they thought because they were cooperating with the Nazis that, and they would turn other people in and get them to agree to the situation, that they would get a pass. And they never got a pass. And I think the people in the government that are making these deals, whether it would be from the fallen angels or from aliens or whoever else it is, they're going to find out that they're not going to get that free pass that they're thinking they're going to get. They're just being used right now to facilitate it.
What did Hitler do to the brown shirts? There's their answer. Mm-hmm. They're all disposable.
Yeah. Once they serve their purpose, they are disposable. And I don't think they know that.
They don't have a seat at the table. They'll never have a seat at the table. Mm-hmm. They can play all the games they want and think that they're sucking up to the right people. Mm-hmm. Here's what this is going to come down to. And this is really, I think, kind of the main point I want to make here with you tonight. We could rise up as a nation right now, and there's going to be problems. There'll be civil unrest. There could even be what appears to be a civil war. But we could rise up and support Trump and demand that things get done on his behalf, and we could force that to happen with some strife. Or we can wait until they come after every one of us, and they come after our guns and the servitude of our children. Mm-hmm. And basically, you'll live here and you'll work there. Mm-hmm. When they do that, that's when the American people are going to rise up and fight with a fury that we haven't seen since World War II. Mm-hmm. But will it be too late by then? Mm. And how many millions will have to die by waiting that wouldn't have to die if we would act politically right now.
There have been, though, in the last 8 years, record amounts of guns and ammo out there, Dave, that people have accumulated. And I would imagine a good prepper is going to have various locations stashed with these guns in case the government thinks they might know where they are and to come to get them. But once they say there is an insurrection, I guess really it's not insurrection, it's stand up for the Constitution. You're saying that the trigger for that to happen is the gun confiscation itself, but it won't really be too late then, won't it? Because people will know that's the basically like the sign in the sky that it's now you act now or you never have another chance.
Well, yeah, I think this is our last legitimate chance to carry on with the United States as we know it. And this is what I meant by God gave us an opportunity. We are squandering the opportunity. Congress should be afraid to go to a town hall meeting now. And I don't mean that we should invoke violence upon them, but they should be afraid of the backlash that's coming. They should be afraid of the political pressure that their people are going to put on them. Mm-hmm. And I'm not seeing it. People think that Trump is almighty and he'll fix everything. And at the end of all this, the Democrats are going to win because in 6 months people will say, well, it's just too big a problem for Trump to solve. He couldn't solve it. Mm-hmm. You're right. He can't. It takes us.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we have this question coming from Janet in Indianapolis, it looks like. It says, Fox reported Thursday that the NSA will provide the smoking gun to Congress about Trump being wiretapped. Are you expecting anything to come forth?
It'll get blocked. I reported on that too, but in a moment of hopeful anticipation, it'll get blocked. Mm-hmm. That'll never be allowed to come to light. And but you know what? Let's talk about the wiretap just for a second. Loretta Lynch, after the election, went to FISA and asked for permission to spy on Trump Towers. She did it twice. Mm-hmm. Right. The first one was rejected by Obama-appointed justices. That tells you how bad it was. Well, that became public because it was rejected. It was only the second request ever rejected by a FISA court. Then she did it again the second time. And we don't know what happened to that. And see, logic would tell you, if you know about the first one because it's rejected, mm-hmm. the second one probably went through. So there's your answer on whether or not Trump got wiretapped. But if that's not enough for you, how about Obama wiretapping Merkel? Oh, he'll do it to Merkel, but he won't do it to Trump.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And here's the thing that no one talks about. No one talks about this. I understand why Obama would tap Trump prior to the election to help his buddy Clinton out, to keep everything in the family, so to speak. But why between the election and the inauguration? And I'll tell you why. Obama knows he's a criminal. He knows Clinton's a criminal. Mm-hmm. All of his administration could go to prison for the things they've done in these 8 years. Mm-hmm. And they want to know what what Trump's intentions are. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing that makes any sense to me. Mm-hmm. Why you tap him after the election's already been decided. They want to do damage control against what's coming.
Well, let's hope something is coming. And, of course, if it does, that bodes well for what residual rule of law still exists. As you say, in the first hour, of course, that the rule of law doesn't exist. But there may be some parts, and like I said earlier, some part of the intelligence community has been giving Trump information. And, so there is still some active patriots over there. And there may have been some amount of Obama people in there that went along with his kooky antics that don't like it any more than anybody else and just played along, as you say, to keep their jobs.
I would agree with that. That's where we're at. But even if we get no support within the intelligence community for Donald Trump, the common denominator, again, and it's probably number 6, I'm saying this sixth time, we have to get to work. And let me give people just 3 things they can do. 1, talk to your neighbors. 2, write an email, make a phone call. You see, they're going to blow you off. They don't care about you. But they start to care if they hear from 100,000 people. If they hear from 10,000 people, they're going to care. This is what's going to get Congress's attention. And you don't have to do anything more than that. We don't have to go up there with pitchforks. Not yet. So this is what, in my opinion, Daniel, we have to do. We have to put pressure on Congress. And this could help Trump get some initiatives through. Then you'd start to see some of these congressmen back down and crack because they want to get reelected. Mm-hmm.
All right, we have this question come in. Dave, do you think that Ryan is a secret supporter of the Islamic Muslim Brotherhood? And of course, then they put this in there. He goes, didn't he grow an Islamic beard last year and was forced to remove it? So,
yeah, I did notice that a lot. I used that photo in an article I did, and a lot of people made that comment. I don't know if he is, but he acts like he is. He didn't surface in Trevor Loudon's information to the best of my knowledge. But do I think he's connected? Yeah, I do. He's into free trade. He's into Obamacare. He doesn't speak out against the deep state. I think that's pretty good evidence he probably is.
Now, we were talking about conspiracies earlier. The very term of deep state has been around, as you said yourself, for a while, in the sort of the alt-right, in the conspiratorial internet there. But it's coming now. It's almost like it's regular talking points now. It's come out that this, in fact, does exist.
Of course it exists. Look, I'll give you the ultimate deep state insider. His name was J. Edgar Hoover. He served under 7 presidents because he blackmailed all of them, had the goods on him. He was really pretty cool about how he did it. He'd go up to him and say, "Yeah, Mr. President, you wouldn't believe what your enemies are saying about you." And it was all evidence he had his agents gather. But we're doing our best to protect you. And that was his way of saying, hey, if you try to get rid of me, I got the goods on you. He was the ultimate deep state insider.
All right, we have this question here. This is interesting. It says, there are rumors, and hey, I don't mind spreading rumors myself. So this person gave me a rumor to spread. There are rumors that Obama has fled to an undisclosed island in the South Pacific because he thinks he may be arrested for treason. And Dave, what's your thought on that?
That's been out there. What your listener to is referring to is something that is widespread on the internet right now. I have the foggiest idea of what he's talking about. I don't know what the allegations would be.
Well, I
do know
that
Hawaii, as a state, backed away from their unbridled support of his birth certificate this last weekend.
Wow. No, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, that was news when I was out there.
Yeah.
I heard on one of the local stations. Now, they didn't come as far as to say it's not valid, but let's just say that some people say that there are questions that could be asked.
So, Dave, you went to Hawaii?
I did.
And you were looking for his birth certificate, weren't you?
I was on business.
Oh.
And then I did a little, hanky-panky partying.
Ooh, okay, like a luau. Hey, I'll tell you what, though.
Oh, yeah, like with my wife and son on the beach.
Okay. Well, because of Hawaii's opposition to Trump's travel ban, they would like to have tens of thousands of refugees come from Syria. And so I think it'd be a great thing to you be looking out, as they're surfing, they'd all be wearing hijabs, like we have a contest of hijab surfers. And then they could line those pristine white beaches with mosques, man. And then instead of a luau, they can have like a head chopping thing going on out there. What do you think?
Yeah. They don't even like tourists out there.
I know.
They sure as heck aren't going to like immigrants.
I know they don't like the Americans being out there. Why are they saying, hey, send us a bunch more Syrian refugees? I don't get that. You're not going to see a Syrian refugee at a luau. They'll probably try to choke somebody with one of the flower necklaces.
Rules for thee, but not for me. Yeah, I agree. So, yeah, we could bring up all kinds of questions like, if they're on the beach, which way would they face when they pray 5 times a day? And, they got their little beach towel there. So, no, I do think we should send the Syrians to Hawaii.
Yeah, I think so, too. They want them
to
have
them. They do
them.
not. I'm telling you. Now, the people of Maui are a little friendlier. We were on Oahu, and I got to tell you, they do not like tourists. Now, the people who are in the tourist industry, they're perfunctory polite, but they don't like tourists from the mainland. You can tell that right away.
See, the main issue about the invasion that they're asking for is that the women, they wear those big black hijabs with that little slit in the eyes, Well, they'll put the bikinis on the outside of that. So it's not very visually appealing there. All right, let's get another question. It says, Dave, who do you think are the good guys in the Senate and the House? What about Trey Gowdy? Is he going to get anywhere?
I don't know about Trey Gowdy. I don't know about Rand Paul.
They're all in on it?
I don't know. They're afraid of losing the support of their party, or they could be having one-man filibusters. Mm-hmm. They could be naming names. Of course, I'm sure they remember, what was the guy's name? Larry McDonald. Remember that guy? Mm-hmm. Spoke out against Rockefeller and the New World Order, late 1970s, and he was on that KAL-7 that was shot down by the Russians, conveniently, right after he said it.
I wonder if it's the same people shot down Ron Brown's plane.
Well, anyway, I don't want to avoid the question.
Okay.
The good guys overwhelmingly are going to be the people that we elect in 2018 as we clean house on Congress. Those will be the good guys. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump is a good guy. Okay. Jeff Sessions is a good guy. Mm-hmm. Rex Tillerson is doing a good job pretending. The rest of them, I don't even think are even trying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Here's a question for you. Dave, do you think there will be any arrests in the wake of PDO-gate?
Foot soldiers, no administrators.
Mm-hmm. Some political sacrifices being made there.
Yeah. Let me give you an example. I was helping a lady in Fort Collins try to regain custody of her kid, and the kid was taken with her from her. No allegations. She was an anti-Agenda 21 activist in Fort Collins, Colorado. And I got involved, and I discovered, they got a big child sex trafficking problem up there, and they lose kids in CPS, and connect the dots, and you know what I was concluding. And it was about 3 months after I surfaced this on my show that they made a massive arrest, including that area, of about 45, 50 people involved in child sex trafficking.
Whoa.
But not one of them was over the age of 23, which means all they caught were the foot soldiers, the people that drive the kids to and from the parties. They didn't catch the people who really are doing this.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't it have something to do with your basic milk carton where they say 150,000 kids are missing every year? Where are they going, Dave?
Bohemian Grove.
Mm-hmm. Sacrifices?
Anywhere else there's a party.
Are they being sacrificed to Moloch after they're being used as personal sex slaves?
Or used in snuff films for the porno industry, yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what about the laptop that evidently got stolen from the Secret Service? Are they really that inept, or did they just give it to somebody to try to get Trump?
I don't even know if I believe the story. Mm-hmm. Where's the proof? Mm. I avoided writing about this.
Really?
Because I didn't think. I looked into it and I thought, oh boy, this is meaty. How timely. And then as I looked into it deeper, we don't even know for sure a laptop was stolen. Or a laptop with, or should I say, classified information on it. Mm-hmm. Pertinent information. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, it could be, but I don't know. Let me tell you, I hang my hat in terms of what Trump should do legally on the 100% verifiable. And this starts with Hillary Clinton. He needs a victory right now or he's going to lose his support base. It's already eroding. I can already see it eroding. It's worse than the Oroville Dam.
Wouldn't these rioters, if you notice that every single riot we've had in the last 8 years is for Democrats, just pointing that out. But wouldn't they riot again should they arrest Hillary Clinton or expose her for her evil deeds?
Well, they could always do NDAA.
Yeah.
I would support that wholeheartedly. I'd like to go on that mission. I'd be happy to.
And you do non-gratis of it.
I'd be tired. I'd have to help her up all the stairs and out of the car because you know how sick she is.
Well, yeah, man. Parkinson's disease is really, and her colostomy bag leaks all the time. It's pretty nasty. Hey, we got. Are you laughing?
I'm glad I'm not enjoying dinner right now at this moment.
It's good because when you have a couple hours of Doomgasm, it's good to hear you laugh. All right, listen. When you talk about the police departments in the United States, are they infiltrated with these child molesters as well?
One thing I do know is that they're told where to look and where not to look. They're directed. So are the police chiefs compromised, I think, is probably the question I would prefer to answer here. And I think they're taking their orders. And I think once you take enough orders, you kind of see the writing on the wall. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think some police chiefs know. I mean, let's look at Congressman Frank Wolf, formerly of Virginia, District 10, I believe it was, Fairfax County. He had on his congressional website tons of material on child sex trafficking in Fairfax County, called #1 site in America for it.
Wow.
His, by the way, that State Department employee I told you I was helping?
Yeah.
His chief investigator, Tito, and Tito's last name escapes me right now, but Tito was his chief investigator on this crime. He was murdered. Oh, they tried to cover it up and call it a hit and run, but he was clearly murdered because he had just brought the congressman a bunch of really good information.
He was Breitbarted, is what you're saying.
Yes.
And just to point out, Fairfax County, that's in Alexandria, isn't it?
Well, that includes Alexandria,
right? Which is a large, which that county has a large population of government employees.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Go ahead.
Correct. So, Congressman Wolf had been a multi-term congressman. I can't remember how many terms, 9, 10, but a lot. Mm-hmm. And he suddenly didn't run for re-election. And Tito was murdered. And this is where Monica first got harassed in the State Department. Now, she didn't know anything about the sex trafficking until I discovered it, and she looked into it. But Tito had a daughter that played in the same apartment complex and lived in the same apartment complex as Monica did at the time. And so they connected her with him, thinking she must have been a source of some leak. And as a consequence, this is when her trouble started at the State Department, but it really mushroomed, with the election of Trump and so forth and what I talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. But Congressman Wolf, unexpectedly and really without good reason, did not run for re-election. I think he was afraid of going the way of Nancy Schaefer. Mm-hmm. And like I said, his chief investigator dead, Monica harassed. And I'll give you a good story inside the State Department. I mean, since we're naming names and kicking butt here today,
yep.
I don't remember the lady's name, though I did have it. She's from Saudi Arabia or Saudi Arabian extraction. There is such a thing. She's in charge of producing brochures, and she works with Monica, mm-hmm. of child sex trafficking around the world. And the State Department brochures will always display graphic examples of child sex trafficking from around the planet, but not one inside the United States. Not a one. What? And Monica mentioned that to me kind of an oh, by the way. And I said, Monica, you're not catching the significance of this. She goes, what do you mean? I said, if you look at what they're calling Pizzagate, you wouldn't, if you really had something to hide, you wouldn't want to cover this in State Department brochures and give credence to it inside the United States. Mm-hmm. And she thought for a second. She goes, you're right. She goes, this always bothered me why we could never put that in there. And they're also trying to ferment, race war there. The other brochures they put out in their computer graphics, you can never have a person of color, when they do one on crime, be a criminal in their graphic displays.
Right.
It always has to be a white person now.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that was another thing that Monica told me. So this is what I'm talking about, where Trump needs to go in, mm-hmm. and he needs to take her entire department and just fire them.
Oh, yeah. That reminds me of the original description of the Islamic killer in London. They said it was a bearded man, and then they said they had a gun incident. Anything but saying exactly who everybody knew it was. Mm-hmm. Here's a question for you. It says, will Jeff Sessions call a grand jury on the new findings from Nunes?
He should.
Well, everybody says he's an upstanding guy, so hopefully, I don't see Jeff Sessions as someone who is bought out. Or here's another question for you.
Well, let me answer the question more than just a one-word answer. I apologize.
Right.
He has to do what Trump tells him to do. Okay, basically. I mean, Trump is his boss.
Okay.
And Trump is, if he's got something in the works for sex trafficking at a higher level, we might be looking at a timing issue where things might be delayed. I don't know. But he should. Listen, Hillary Clinton should already be charged, I said, with the emails. Let me give you another one Hillary should be charged with.
Okay.
I know this for a fact. She absconded with $2 billion in relief money through the Clinton Foundation that was meant for Haiti.
Yeah.
This is undeniably and true and very provable. Why isn't she in jail? See, again, Trump could win a major victory. And I don't care. I'm willing to take the riots in the streets. Because if we're going to keep our country, we need to take on the people who are wrecking our country. And there's none more prevalent than Hillary Clinton. She needs to go down. Then Obama needs to be next.
Right. Hillary is trying to come out of the woods, man. I mean, she rode her broomstick over there and smacked into a tree. Now she's trying to come out of there. What about Reince Priebus? Is he a good guy?
He doesn't do anything for me.
Or is that Reince? I mean, how's even?
Yeah.
What kind of name is that anyway? All right. What about this question here?
I would put him in the rinse cycle. I'd get rid of him. I don't think he brings credit to the administration.
Yeah, he's an inside mole, no doubt about it. I remember him going after Trump before, too. Was there any truth to Obama being gay and members of his church being killed off who had affairs with him?
I don't know. There's enough rumors about it that I think it's worth looking at. I mean, they call him Bathhouse Barry for a reason, and that reputation followed him into the White House before he was ever elected.
Yeah.
So I don't know the answer to that.
I got two words for that question. Reggie Love.
Well, I got one for you too.
What's that?
Is he capable of killing? Benghazi.
Is he capable of lying? Is he capable of running drugs to South American drug lords and having them kill our border agents? So yeah, is he? You mentioned that, of course, we all know and is admitted he wiretapped Angela Merkel, but he also wiretapped 30 AP reporters and hacked into Fox News reporters' email as well. So there was no restraint to that criminal operation that he was running in there. And you're right, they should be arrested. What about this question here? Was Monica Lewinsky part of the Pizzagate, or was she just?
I've never heard that.
Okay. Or she might just be advertising particular brands of cigars. I don't know which. All right, here's. But what about Trump? Do you think that they got anything on him? It seems like he's kind of quieted down. In fact, his tweets, Dave Hodges of the Common Sense Show, have been reduced, haven't they?
Yes.
Did they get to him?
No. My read on Donald Trump is he'll go to his death fighting. I think he's regathering.
Yeah.
I don't think he's done.
Yeah.
But again, seventh time, we got to help him.
Got to help Donald Trump. It could be our last chance. They used to say that, or there's a book written called The Providential Life of George Washington, and I'm hoping that there's going to be another book written in the future called The Providential Life of Donald Trump. And I know that he has been surrounded by prayer warriors, and they finally got all the prayer rugs out of the White House when Donald Trump got in there, and that were all facing to Mecca. It took them a while to find him. They found him in closets, they found him, in the bathrooms. It took them a long time to get rid of those prayer rugs. But now, there have been a lot of people saying that they maybe pray every day and stuff like that, particularly with Mike Pence, who is an unabashed Christian, Dave.
We'll see.
I know you're skeptical. I'm trying to convince you.
I'm not sold on Pence.
He's a country boy. He's a farm boy.
I listened to Pence speak today.
Okay.
To a group who Trump had done a deal with, and I don't remember the name of the group now. Okay. And I listened to him for about 10 minutes. I was impressed. I liked what he had to say.
Okay.
But I also have read his body language. I've looked at his lack of support for Trump when Trump went through his darkest hours in the campaign. And I didn't see a guy who was fully on board. And like I said, his position on free trade agreement still causes me concern. He needs to prove himself, and my fear is he's LBJ. I didn't say he is LBJ. I said that's my fear.
I'm going to try to pronounce his name right, but somebody in the live chat says, I believe that Steve Pazinick is advising President Trump behind the scenes. Am I correct?
Steve Pacinich, I think is who they're talking about.
Yes, very good. I knew I'd blow that one.
Correctly. Former CIA. I have no idea.
Well, he needs somebody. I feel like there's. I still feel like there's a remnant of patriots in the government, and they may had to hide out.
Sit down with Robert Gates. He needs to sit down. Former CIA. That's who he wants an audience with him. This guy set up intelligence program after intelligence program for the CIA. And he is, you want to talk about good guys? He is one of the good guys. Picenich, I think he's got a lot of good things to say. If he's advising Trump, I think Trump is probably the better for it.
You said that Trump is regrouping, and to me, that's a very hopeful statement. If you look back at the way he handled his adversaries coming into the presidency, the 16 other candidates that were running, one by one, he eliminated them as part of the opposition, and even he was able to fight off media attacks and even attacks from his own party. Do you think that the people that could not or would not go with him on this health bill, do you think that he still has that mentality where he's going to tweet him or Trump him to death? He made a joke actually the other day about that Kaepernick guy who's said the NFL owners won't hire him back in the NFL because they're afraid that they'll get a nasty Trump tweet. That was a joke for him. That's pretty funny, really. But do you think that he is counting those people that didn't help him get through, and he has his way to deal with him like he did with the Republican other presidential candidates?
I think his problems are bigger than dealing with individuals, and it's been one of the criticisms I've had of Trump is he's more worried about people like Meryl Streep and what she's saying at some award ceremony than running the country. I mean, he cannot get bogged down on these individual jousting matches because they take away the attention where it needs to be put. And I would answer your question that way. Now, I will also say this. Trump sounded fatalistic today. When he talked about failed health care, he said, well, we're just going to basically let Obamacare explode and then the Democrats will come to us to fix it. That's not a solution, Donald. This is why I think he was putting a Band-Aid on a bad situation, walking away from it to regroup. I think health care is going to come back if he can build momentum and get other things passed. Let's get one thing passed, two things. Now here comes health care again. Now we got momentum. That's how I think he's going to handle it.
And really, like you said in the first hour, Dave, I mean, he has made tremendous progress for this country already. And I got a feeling that the massive amount of people that particularly on the Democratic left who have lost their jobs because they supported Democratic policies may be rethinking their allegiance, their blind allegiance to the Democratic Party. Say, well, now I have a job and there's a Republican in office. Maybe they're not so bad after all. Maybe they aren't against clean air, and maybe they aren't against people dying in the streets like they've been told by the Democratic machine. So,
well, I have talked to a number of Democrats who are not on board with what's going on inside their party. I mean, it's the Communist Muslim Brotherhood Party. And the Muslim Brotherhood is the worst terrorist organization in the world. I'm not anti-Muslim, but I'm anti-Muslim extreme terrorist. And this dominates the Democratic Party. Your leadership in the Democratic Party come out of these roots now. And I'll refer back to Trevor Loudon's good work on this. And I did research that validated what he claimed as well. And we have, right now, the Democrats have been chosen to bring down the country. And I don't think every Democrat that serves realizes that. But I'm telling you, Keith Ellison knows. Al Frankenstein knows. I mean, they all know that at the top level. Barbara Boxer, she knows. John McCain, he knows. He may as well be a Democrat. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Wasn't there a term used once before called useful idiots? But somebody's behind
545 of them.
But somebody's behind that, Dave. But I want to get a little bit as we get toward the end of the broadcast to get into the more supernatural part of this, because you were talking about fallen angels at the end of the first hour, and there's going to need to be some sort of supernatural intervention, maybe empowerment. People need to know that there is that part of their existence that they can zone into, or they can get power from, to maybe sort of march forward. Maybe they feel like organically they don't have a supernatural God behind them that will back them up if they indeed start to march down the way of truth. How can somebody tap into the supernatural knowing that if they move, that God's going to be with them, and God actually has the best interest of humans in mind anyway, and He would want warriors for truth to step forward?
Well, it's possible the way we're going, we may have to do it without the United States. But God doesn't abandon His believers because of your national allegiances. So if America goes away and we lose this fight with the globalists, God will not abandon his flock. But for people to have God on their side, they've got to join the family, which means, confess your sins unto God, and basically recognize that Jesus is the Son of Man, and then start reading your Bible and start living your life accordingly. And yes, you're allowed to make mistakes. Say you're sorry, you move on. That's all people need to do. It's a very simple formula, and I advise everybody to do it, because right now as we sit, when Donald Trump was elected, I knew it would be difficult. It's probably 50% more difficult than I thought it was going to be. And I don't know that we're going to be able to save and resurrect this country to what it once was. But what people can do is they can rediscover or discover for the first time their Christian allegiances and live their life accordingly and have God on their side, whether you're an American or someone on the run hiding out, whatever your status is.
So would you say that in this sort of chaotic expectation of events that are soon to occur or that are rapidly approaching, that it's better to have Jesus on your side than to try to go it alone, eh?
I'd rather have Jesus on my side than Donald Trump. I think that says a mouthful right there.
All right, Dave Hodges of the Common Sense Show. We're getting near the end of the broadcast. Any final statement and any comments about your website? You go right ahead.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come on your show. It's you've had some good questions from well-meaning listeners, and I'm sorry if I wasn't able to answer all the questions. I'm in a position, where I only know what I know, and I don't want to claim what I don't know. But people are welcome to visit me on my website at thecommonsenseshow.com, our YouTube channel that's been demonetized, but we're still going to continue to produce news on it because people prefer that medium to some extent. And my radio show, 8 p.m. tomorrow night. And guess what we're covering in the second hour? Child sex trafficking in Hollywood from an insider from Hollywood.
Oh, man. Say hello to the NSA for me on that show, Dave.
Oh, yeah, and we may get some interference.
Yeah,
but we're gonna press on, so people can listen to my show with a live listen button. We're also on Red State Talk Radio, live stream, Talk Live Stream, and Global Star Radio Network. I mean, we're in a lot of places, but easiest place to catch us on our website, 8 p.m. Eastern.
It seemed like we had a little bit of NSA interference here earlier, but the audio started chopping up, and it always seems to happen when you're on the show, Dave. That's okay. I expect
I said I got leprosy. I got New World Order leprosy.
But could we just ask the NSA to hit the donation button, and because if they support you, then you would be able to proceed further with your agenda, and you would be exposed, and they know how to deal with it. But I think that first of all, the best thing to do is for them to donate to your cause.
I think that'd be especially what's happened with YouTube. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, NSA money. You like that idea?
Well, the NSA needs to find Christ.
Yeah.
And if they found Christ, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing.
True. True words never been spoken. Dave Hodges of the Common Sense Show. Can we have you back on the edge again sometime?
I'd love to. Sure.
I appreciate you coming on the show, Dave, and you stay safe out there and keep on pressing forward, brother.
Okay. Thank you, my friend.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. That was Dave Hodges of the Common Sense Show. And if you missed any of this exciting broadcast, and boy, you got to catch that last going out of the first hour. Wow. We didn't get too much in the second hour of that, but man, that was awesome there. Next week, we're going to have with us, we're talking about world views, and we're talking about world orders in this broadcast with Dave Hodges. But next week, we'll be talking about not the old world order and not the new world order, but the alien world order. Next week with our guest, Lynn Caston. If we haven't had a guest on the program you'd like to see, drop me a line at edgeam@yahoo.com. And additionally, you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Whoa, knocked myself out of the picture. Or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget, we also have TuneIn Radio, which is playing our broadcast 24 hours a day on that. So you can listen to that on your show. And we're going to also have Carla Boutals coming back, and she's going to be talking about generational curses. And she says that's where it all begins. If you've got problems in your life, that's what you need to address. And she's going to be on the show with some awesome information to help everyone out. Well, it's a wrap for tonight. Daniel Ott for The Edge. Bye-bye.